Hey everyone, it's Thorne, and today we are talking about Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. Now, I know this book came out a while ago, all the way back in July, I believe, and now it's November when I'm finally getting around to talking about this, but one, I've been kind of busy. Two, I didn't read this for a while after I got it just because I was holding off on reading it because I was so excited to read it, but at the same time, I wasn't exactly sure what Rowling was going to do with all the characters that I grew to love through the Harry Potter books. So I was so excited to read it, but at the same time, I didn't want the story to end, so I just put it off. I mean, that makes sense, right? Right? Well, anyways, it took me a little while before I read it, and then I finally read it, and then I've been pondering it for a while, just thinking about it and trying to gather all of my thoughts, because this is a very different kind of story than the Harry Potter books I grew to love. So, without any further ado, let's dive into the book. So, Harry Potter and the Cursed Child follows a story of Harry's son Albus as he goes to Hogwarts and makes friends and tries to live his life. Now, Albus has some struggles, primarily the fact that his father is Harry Potter. I feel like anybody whose father was Harry Potter, anybody who has such a famous parent, would have struggles in figuring out who they are and what they want to do and feeling like they're overshadowed by their parent. But through this book, Albus is struggling with that, and he's also struggling kind of with the idea of where he's at in Hogwarts. Now, Albus was sorted into Slytherin, which I found fascinating because this book takes a good look at Slytherins, because in the original Harry Potter series, Slytherins are primarily regarded as that evil house because no witch or wizard, whoever went bad, wasn't in Slytherin, as we all know. So Slytherins kind of have a rap for being evil, which is understandable because Voldemort, but at the same time not understandable because Voldemort does not represent the entire population of Slytherins. And yes, a lot of the wizards who were in Slytherin did go bad. But moving on, there's more Slytherins than just them. If you were going into this book expecting it to be exactly like the 7 Harry Potter books that Rowling has written so far, you might want to put those expectations on pause and just go into it without those expectations, with a slightly broader mind, because this is written in a very different tone than the other books. It's also a completely different format because this is the rehearsal script for the play, so I really enjoy that format. I've read a lot of plays before, modern plays, ancient plays. I read a lot of Greek plays in high school. They were fascinating, guys. We'll talk about that in a different video. That's not what this is. But it's a very different book, and it takes a different kind of look at the characters. So there were some characters in this book that I absolutely loved. Scorpius Malfoy is bae, basically. I love Scorpius Malfoy. And he was essentially the best part of the book and my favorite part of the book. Albus, not my favorite, honestly. There were some parts where I'm like, yeah, okay, you're being kind of cool at the moment, but there are other parts where I'm like, no, Albus, you're being stupid. Please stop. So Albus, conflicted on how much I like him. Like, he was an interestingly written character, but I couldn't connect with him very well. Yeah. So Albus and Scorpius are the two of the kids that focuses on most, Harry's and Draco's kids, which was fascinating because of everything that Harry and Draco went through together in school. And I liked them a lot. And while I thought that Rowling did a good job with both Albus and Scorpius, I didn't really like her characterization of all of the characters that I grew to love over the series. Particularly Harry and Ron and Hermione, Ginny to some extent. I still like Draco. Draco was pretty spot on. I still thought his characterization was good. But it was really interesting jumping 19 years in this book and seeing Harry as a grown-up. And even though he's a grown-up, he didn't seem to grow up very much in those 19 years. But at the same time, his personality seemed completely different, and he was reacting to things in ways that I didn't expect him to react to them in that way. And same with Hermione. She was very un-Hermione, if that makes sense. Like, there are certain things that I expected of Hermione from reading the books. Hermione was always very witty and smart and very on top of things. But at the same time, she did care deeply for her friends. And same with Harry. Like, Harry was impetuous and sometimes acted without thinking, but he always cared so much for his friends and his family and for the people that he loved, and he would do anything for them. And in this book, Harry and Albus have a kind of rocky relationship because Albus feels overshadowed by his father, and Harry just has troubles connecting with Albus, but he also doesn't seem to try very hard throughout the story. I'm going to go into a little bit of spoilers here, so once you see the thumbs up, you can unmute it if you don't want to hear spoilers. So, spoilers starting now. Okay. Throughout this book, it turns out that there's one time turner that hasn't been destroyed, and the Ministry of Magic got a hold of it, and then Albus and Scorpius got a hold of it, and they start going back and messing with time, which, as we know, you should never mess with time. But in messing with time, they managed to change a lot of things about their future. Every single time they went back and changed something and came back, they found that their future was different. So in some of them, Hermione and Ron weren't married, and because Hermione and Ron weren't married, Hermione was a teacher at Hogwarts, and I think she taught Defense Against the Dark Arts. I don't remember which subject she taught, but she was a teacher at Hogwarts, and she was a very strict and very uncaring teacher, which I really did not like that characterization of her, because it seemed to hinge on the fact that just because she and Ron weren't together, she didn't have love in her life, and so she became this very cold person. I really don't think that's who Hermione is. Throughout the entire series, she and Ron weren't together until the Deathly Hallows, and up to that point, she cared deeply about Harry and Luna and Ginny and the twins and Ron as a friend, and dang it, my card is full. Okay, so I was just mid-rant and then my camera card died, so let's try to pick up. I believe I was just talking about how I don't feel like Hermione would have no compassion at all for people and not care for them in any way just because she and Ron didn't get married. So that was one of my biggest problems with this book, was the characterization of the trio that I loved, and I felt like some of their character traits that I really thought were most important and really made them who they were, it didn't get translated over well to Cursed Child. So, thumbs up, spoilers are over, so you can all come on back now. It's still a fascinating read, honestly, to see what Rowling did in this magical world, because it's still the same magical world. It's still Hogwarts. It's still Harry and Hermione and Ron, even though I feel like some of their characterizations messed up, but it's still all of these people, but interpreted in a slightly different light, maybe. Basically, just don't expect it to be the same thing as the Harry Potter books that you grew up with and that you loved. Go into it with open eyes and see how you like it. Honestly, I don't want to give this a star rating because there are aspects of it that I loved, like Scorpius Malfoy and his character development through the book, and there are aspects of it that I didn't like that one scene with Hermione. There was some plot points that were just really kind of confusing and kind of out there. So, all in all, I did like the book. I didn't hate it. I'm not sure if I loved it. I would recommend reading it just so you can see what all the hype is about. I know that everybody has very different opinions on this book. So just go ahead and check it out and see what you think of it. If you've read this book, please join me in the comments down below and let's chat. I'd love to hear what you thought about it, what parts you liked or didn't like, if we had some similar thoughts and ideas about this book or not. That's what I love about this community, that we all bring something different to the table. So go ahead and join me down below in the comments to chat about this book. I'd love to hear from you. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a big thumbs up. And if you want to keep getting more videos and hearing my thoughts about other books and seeing unboxings and other things that I'm working on, go ahead and subscribe to my channel, which apparently I'm also doing a thumbs up for that. So go ahead and subscribe, and until next time.